Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Are You Filmmaking? I'm your host, Kenny Williams, and I know last episode we discussed films, and today we're discussing documentaries from some of our greatest creators. And to discuss it, I have my co-host, Daniel Campbell. How you doing today, Daniel?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for hosting the show again, and I'm so excited to be here and be able to talk about these documentaries that these students made. And you can tell they really poured their creative soul into this, and I'm just really excited to highlight their hard work.
For sure. You know, it took a while to actually do these docs, and we want to celebrate their creations.
Yeah, documentaries are no easy feat, so I'm really excited to meet them.
Most definitely. And starting off first is Jason Jaco with his documentary, Sample Size.
So the motivation behind ice cream, honestly, it was something that just found me. Initially, I tried to strike out and open up a coffee shop, but there is a really big difference between a coffee clientele and an ice cream clientele. Even just the mention of ice cream immediately makes people smile. No one can talk about ice cream, nobody can think about ice cream without feeling good about it. It's the one place where you'll come and you'll see a family on a regular basis. Everyone has that one good ice cream memory. Sunday Scoops gets to be that special place for some people when they come back and they want to celebrate. So it's really just about being a servant leader, as it were. Here you go.
Thank you.
Yep. My name is Philip Harrell, one of the co-owners of Sunday Scoop. Myself and my wife, we go ahead and run this ice cream shop. Oddly enough, myself and my wife, we met in Korea. She was there teaching, I was in the Army. It's been about 11 years now since we've been together, going on 12. 2 kids, and life has just been a big event for us, one right after another. My wife is from South Africa originally, so she just never went home. She followed me back to the States. And then we were in El Paso, Texas for a little bit. I made the decision to get out of the Army because my son was on the way. So got out of the Army, moved to Greenville, North Carolina, where I was selling textbooks. And from Greenville, I moved up here to be a regional manager of a textbook store, and then just rolled into leaving that job and on to just something.
Wow, that looked amazing. How did you feel about that, Daniel?
Oh no, I was blown away by this documentary. Not only the subject matter and the characters that are interviewed, but like the quality, the way that the story was chosen to be told was just brilliant to me, and I really enjoyed it.
And I love the way the colors that really brought out what ice cream really is. Mm-hmm. It's colorful, it's bright, it's beautiful. So let's bring out the director and creator of this documentary, Jason Jaco.
Great to have you on the show.
My man. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you, my brother. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to do this piece? It looks like it's a passionate piece.
Well, actually, someone named Kenny told me about Philip and Sunday Scoop. You guys were good friends, and you set out the context. I was in the need for a good subject, the documentary. Kenny was basically like, hey, I have a good friend who makes ice cream, homemade and everything. And I was like, that's insane. You know, I've never been to an ice cream shop that's like kind of homemade ice cream. You always go to like your Dairy Queens and all that stuff, you know, the chains. Those are boring.
For sure.
You know, and so I thought it was a really good topic, and I just wanted to shoot it. So, yeah.
So what was your creative process of going through this? 'Cause I've seen a lot of great shots in your documentary.
I feel like, because it's ice cream and everyone kind of thinks like, you know, fun, family, kind of kids, very playful stuff with ice cream, I wanted to capture kind of that feeling, you know, very playful, all that. And I just felt like director style-wise, the one that fit the best and I tried to mimic a little bit was definitely Wes Anderson, because his films are very playful, very almost kind of like childlike in a way. And so I thought that was a very good style or mood to fit into this doc. And you can see kind of with this shot here that's playing.
Why don't you play some?
Yeah, this shot here, like I think was very like Wes Anderson kind of inspired. a little bit with the ice cream truck. And that one wasn't that. That's the Odalise is the place, and they make crepes, and they have a good connection with Sunday Scoop. They basically share ice cream with each other, and it's a good little small business kind of partnership. So,
Yeah, no, I could definitely see like the Wes Anderson inspiration, especially when you went to that second store.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering, like the documentary goes in a few different directions, especially when you integrate the story with the relationship between the stores. Did you have an idea about that going in? Like, did you know where the documentary was going and that was where it was heading, or did you kind of, find things along the way and just improvise?
So I think it definitely was kind of planned to begin with. It was funny because when I went to go meet Philip for the first time and ask him, hey, could I make a documentary about your store? Steve, who owns Odalise or co-owns Odalise, he was in the store fixing their floors, which I know he mentioned in the doc.
Yeah.
And so while I was like asking Philip, I was like, hey, I want to make a documentary on your ice cream stuff. Steve immediately kind of popped in. He was like, oh, you're making a documentary? Like, oh, well, we do this with them and like all that. He was like telling me the whole story, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let me get your contact. And so when I was planning out kind of the overall plot and stuff, I was like, I gotta get Steve in here, And so then you had Philip and Steve, and that's kind of where it started.
That's so cool. It just like naturally came together.
Yeah,
is what it sounds
basically,
like.
yeah.
So why this? Why this project? Like, what's the story you're trying to tell?
Well, I think really, I guess the heart of it is just to show hardworking, Americans with a small business, but also kind of the value that small businesses bring to a community. I feel like I'm a little bit of a sucker sometimes that falls into the category of like, corporations are just like, the more efficient ones. You tend to just go to the corporations and you almost put small business to the side, and you don't realize how much value they actually hold versus Amazon, Target, like all these kind of like things. It really is like the customer service behind it. You don't get that kind of customer service like you do at Sunday Scoop, with Amazon and stuff. They're just so passionate, and they're doing it because they love it. They're not doing it for money, and it's just a really interesting experience. I know several times, actually both Sunday Scoop and Odalise, in the middle of the interview, people were coming in even though they were on a closed day, and they were like, oh, no, come on in. And we had to hold the interview for a bit, and they served people ice cream, and they didn't even charge them. They were just like, oh, it's fine, we're closed, just enjoy it. And I'm just, you don't get that kind of stuff with corporations. It's just a really unique and special thing for small businesses. They're special to the community.
That's for sure. It's all about community.
Yeah. I think it's what you highlight too is like these businesses are a part of the community. Like they bring people together and they encourage that community that's around them, which I think is beautiful. So you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
And I guess along the process of making this, did you stumble across anything like that you weren't expecting? Did you figure something new out that wasn't necessarily planned, or?
Yeah. So one thing I know that was a little expected or unexpected. I mean, was I wanted to have the dynamic of these two couples being like, hey, look at these two couples making ice cream, and I originally wanted Philip and his wife to be interviewed, but I think mom duty called.
Okay.
And she sadly couldn't do the interview. As well as she's a little camera shy, so I understand, and I didn't want to force that on her, of course. So that was a little unexpected in the sense that I was planning for two subjects to represent Sunday Scoop, but I only ended up getting Philip. There were some moments where we had like his wife, working and stuff, and she was amazing to work with. There was a point when they were at Regent here on campus,
right,
and she was like running the booth, and we were just chatting while I was like recording stuff, and it was fun. It was a little vibe, but that was definitely something that was a little unexpected, and I had to kind of work around.
Right. Yeah, and it still works great with just his interview.
Thank you.
So do you have any behind the scenes stories of what was going on when you were creating this amazing documentary?
Yes, I think one of them that was kind of a little funny, like a funny story, and I've mentioned it I think to some other people before, is when we were at Odalise in Newport News. I got there early for the interview, and obviously the shop was closed. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just get some shots and B-roll of the outside and all that stuff, because it's always good to have that footage.
Sure, for sure.
And so I was like filming their truck, and it's a really small little community, and they're really, really close to each other. It's honestly a really good thing. But then I was filming their truck, you know, and then Steve and Catherine came in. We did the interview, and in the middle of the interview, they were like, "Oh yeah, the community is so good that someone called us and said, hey, there's like this weird guy outside filming your truck. Do we need to take care of him?"
Not the weird guy.
Yeah, and like we're like, who is this person? You know, and they felt like threatened almost by me, and they're so close. They're so close to each other that they literally called her on their way to, you know, be interviewed, being like, hey, you know, there's something, do we need to take care of it? And they're like, no, he's here for, you know, the interview and all that stuff. So, but I thought that was kind of funny. But other than that, I think it was pretty smooth sailing in regards to like behind the scenes. I think everything went pretty well. I don't know if there's any other exciting stuff with that.
No.
Yeah.
What were some of the bigger challenges that you faced when you were making this documentary?
Ooh, that's actually a good question. I think
There's a couple.
there's definitely sound. Sound was difficult because they're ice cream shops, so they have huge refrigerators, and it's just constantly like this, you know, kind of like noise that like hum. And so that was a little difficult to try to get the microphone in the right spot that it dampened it as much as you could, and then in post you had to like kind of take it out. There may be some moments where they seem a little awfully quiet in their interview, and that's just because, you know, trying to cancel out that refrigerator hum. I did also, I know another challenge, well, I guess it was more something I had to throw out. I wanted a really cool shot of the camera actually in the freezer, and then you see them like opening it and then putting like the tubs of ice cream in there. But when I saw the temperature outside of the fridge, it was like negative 20 degrees, and I was like, I don't think that's worth putting your camera in that.
Right.
So sadly, a shot that I really wanted, I couldn't do because of that. So.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah, now I know it's crazy refrigerators, negative 20 degrees, like, yeah, that is wild.
Oh,
It's an expensive electric bill.
yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah.
Also, what are your future plans? I know this is your first kind of official doc. What else do you have going on in the future? I know we're graduating soon.
I know, it's always the hard question to answer. I'm still not so sure. I'm kind of figuring it out. Definitely, I think I can definitely hone in on just like camera work of some degree. I do like editing. I think this documentary was a really good experience of, like, I feel like kind of what it means to be an editor, because documentaries are very like post heavy. Like that's where the story is usually made. So I really, really enjoyed that. I can see myself being an editor of some kind. And I guess I'm looking a little bit at like some freelance stuff. You know, this doc could have been technically considered client work. You know, Philip and Sibs were fantastic. You know, they were just open to do it. I didn't charge them or anything. But if I wanted to continue something like that, I could technically make a living.
For sure.
That,
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Freelance and
Most
just
definitely.
do small businesses and tell their story. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the plan. Just kind of figure out with some camera stuff, maybe some editing, and a little freelance. I guess I don't know. That's a good answer, but
I think that's a perfect answer.
hopefully that's a good enough plan after graduation. We'll see. So.
And did you do the graphics? There's a lot of graphics in the documentary.
Yes.
Did you do the animations yourself?
I did, yeah. That came from me just messing around before I even got here, just with editing, just kind of I made like silly videos with my friends, and we didn't know how to like draw anything, so we just took like JPEGs.
Right.
We just like made them hop. And so like that's how I kind of learned how to animate a little bit.
I love that. That's so
To some
cool.
degree with just JPEGs.
Yeah. No, it worked really well.
So, thank you.
No, it looked gorgeous, Jason, and I want to compliment you for all the hard work you put in. Like, what you did shows that you were very passionate about this project, and I can see it going further into festivals and things of that nature. I think you have a really good product.
Thank you.
And I know certain people know what you went through doing that process.
Yeah.
And I know that person would say that they enjoyed working with you. And having this process and getting to know you a little more about your documentary and about your passion, about your creativity, it was amazing to see.
Thank you.
Amazing to see.
Very much.
But that's all the time we have for you, Jason. We love you. I know.
I know. Thank you guys
I know.
for bringing me on the show. So.
For sure, man. For sure.
Thank you.
So our next doc is a Sage Thomas, An Explosion of Everyday Life.
Can we try that again? Thank you, sir.
And the explosion of everyday life. You don't know how you're gonna wake up. You might feel green, blue, red, yellow, purple, or brown.
One says sometimes you ease on down the road to some place of shelter or safety. So even a place maybe you've never been, but in your mind you think that's where you would ease on down the road. Yeah. Where? Puerto Rico.
This is 11 different pieces put together as one.
It's in this roll maybe.
You'll see a tree.
Oh,
The must list. What I must get. What people like cars, bicycle. Well, you're in the park, you're pissing your heart, you're in the park. Watching at the sky and chilling, you're pissing your heart.
I can only dream of cooking like this. It looks good, don't it?
Wow, that's very powerful. I don't even know what to say. That's an amazing documentary. How did you feel about that, Daniel?
It seems like it's a very inspirational piece, and it's a piece that talks about the importance of community and the importance of expressing that through music, and I think that's beautiful.
This is beautiful. Let's bring the director out here. So our director is Sage Thomas. Let's bring her out.
Thank you.
Of course.
Madame.
Thank you.
Madame. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So, Miss Sage, tell us about your doc. It looked great.
Well, thank you. So, long story short, it's a documentary in partnership with an organization called the Norfolk Street Choir Project, which is basically dedicated to affirming the homeless through the creative arts. So what you're seeing here is their Creative Arts Fridays that they typically have, where they do some sort of craft or artistic expression with, tissue paper, markers, crayons, physical art like that. Oftentimes connected to songs that they had sung on their Tuesday rehearsal earlier in the week. So the choir would meet on Tuesday. They go through a variety of songs. They're kind of always preparing for their next concert, even though they never really know if they're going to be able to do it or not, but they're always preparing for one. And then the art will either connect to that or just free form expression. They don't really have any rules. It's just kind of like you come, express whatever you want. You have guidelines if you want them or not. And so they have some regulars that come and they get breakfast in the morning. That's what we're seeing here from the church volunteers that they facilitate the organization at. And then they also do a clothing closet at that church. There's showers that are done by the Dream Center in Hampton Roads. So they partner with a lot of other organizations in the community to meet the practical needs of the homeless. And then they get to do the fun part of the arts and the music through the Norfolk Street Choir Project specifically.
Oh, wow. So I know that specifically in Virginia, we do have a bad homeless problem. You go up and down the street, all you do is see homeless, and I think it's risen over the years. So it's special that you would go out and find these homeless individuals and see this choir and bring their struggles to light. Even though looking at your documentary, they're struggling, but they're still happy. Like you don't have to have a lot to be happy. And I think you really showcase that in your documentary. Could you tell us how you found these people?
So my mom and I went to the Norva a few months ago and saw that a former Regent professor had produced a movie that they were showcasing locally. So we went to go see it. It was called Hollywood Teach Us to Pray. And so I took my mom to go see that. And while we were there, the Norfolk Street Choir Project had like a table set up. I don't know if like the proceeds of that film went to the street choir or whatever, but there was some sort of partnership that had been going on. And so I heard about the Norfolk Street Choir Project through that event, and I was like, I knew doc class was happening, coming up, and I needed something to do. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And so from there, I got contact information, reached out to the church actually, because I didn't know who the direct contact was. And they host it at Freemason Street Baptist Church in Norfolk, Virginia. And so I was able to, Robert Shoup, who is the founder and the director of the choir specifically, he works at that church as well. So I was able to get in contact with him. It's not a religiously affiliated organization, but the church does let them use their facilities when they have
that's beautiful.
Their weekly meetings.
That's beautiful.
And Sage, I just want to just ask, like, when you're going through this documentary creating process, and do you have a plan, or do you know where the documentary is headed, or are you just like get in there, start filming, let's make this work?
Well, for this one, I had an idea of kind of what I wanted to showcase, but I had never been there before.
Right.
So I spent like 2 to 3 weeks actually just going without a camera and just hanging out with them, meeting everybody, because the staff there, they were encouraging me. They're like, you want the community to be comfortable around you and to know that you're safe and that you're not here, because they've been exploited a lot.
Oh, wow.
Media has done them dirty many, many times. And so they're like, you come in with a camera, people's guards are like immediately up, because that's supposed to be a safe place for them.
Yeah.
So they wanted me to just be a familiar face for the people that come. And so I spent a few weeks just hanging out and learning what they do and meeting the people, and they kind of got to know me. And so we slowly started throwing in the fact that I was going to be making a documentary for school. And we even had to make special participation release forms that had additional promises for how we were and were not going to use the footage, just so that they were like reassured that this is like going to be used for good and for benefit, hopefully fundraising even. But yeah, I just started with me seeing what they do. It's supposed to be kind of a day in the life, but it's really a week in the life, and because it's 2 days. But I saw what they do on a week-to-week basis, and I was like, okay, I'll capture this, because they actually already have a feature-length documentary on the organization.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, how can I do something that's different than what hasn't maybe already been seen? And so I was like, kind of an observational piece, looking at just the aspects of what they do each week would be really cool.
Yeah, I think definitely like taking the time to visit them and get to know them before you start shooting really paid off, because you can tell throughout the doc that there's like a familiarity there. No one seems to be like performing for the camera or camera shy or anything like that. Everyone's just living their life, and it just perfectly captured like what you said. So great job.
Thanks.
I see that you took the line "an explosion in everyday life" from the gentleman who actually said that.
I did. Yes.
I like that, but
there he is. It was awesome.
That I think there's always a line in every movie, every doc, what people say, and it's always that one line. In an explosion of everyday life, you can be green, you can be blue. I think that describes all our lives. The ups and downs and all the trials and tribulations that we go through, and having them being homeless and going through that, but they can still, again, have that passion in what they're doing is very beautiful. So is there any behind-the-scenes type thing that you experienced while making this documentary?
Well, I realized that this wasn't going to be an interview-heavy documentary, because I filmed this over the course of 2 days, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to pull them away from the activities that they're there for and the things that they're there for, because I'm not trying to distract from what they're doing. I'm just trying to be a part of it. And so I had to think of a way to tell the story without necessarily getting them to tell the story, because like I said, I'm just there. I'm just observing. I'm not trying to get them to do anything additional for me. And I did have an interview from the founder initially, but then it just felt kind of like I was spoon-feeding the audience, like what was going on.
Yeah, you want to do that.
And I wanted it to be more so you kind of figure out what's happening as the film progresses. And so I have the quote at the beginning, but that quote doesn't explicitly say anything about homelessness. And the organization itself is very big on preserving dignity and depicting the value and the respect that every individual should have. And so they were like, in your filming, please, like, don't film the parts that you wouldn't want to see depicted on a screen of like yourself in your personal life.
That's fair.
And so that's why you see like the showers from afar, and you see the kitchen only. Like, you just, I don't need to be in people's faces when they're just like, taking care of their everyday needs. But the arts is where they really come alive, is when they're excited and when they're passionate and inspired. And so that was the part I really wanted to focus on. But it was difficult to kind of get the point across at first, because I was like, I don't want to tell you that they're homeless. I want you to figure out that they're homeless. And I don't want to use the practical needs that are being met as the basis for how we know who these people are, because that's not who they are. And also, because there's so many other organizations involved in what the Norfolk Street Choir Project does, I didn't want to take away from the Norfolk Street Choir specifically. I could have done EVMS, the medical school that helps with medical checkups and does the art classes actually and all the stuff. Could have done the church, I could have done all of that, but that's not who the Norfolk Street Choir Project is.
For sure.
So without having interviews or using the interviews that I had, that proved to be a little bit of a challenge in the edit, because I just had to be a little bit more creative with how I told the story. But I think it was good practice. All docs don't have interviews, but my experience has been interview-only docs up until this point, and so it was a fun time experimenting with that and coming up with something that showed what I was trying to convey.
For sure, for sure. I know that you don't want to just show the homeless part, because people hear homeless, it's an immediate stigma, And I know that as human beings, we need to take an account for, it's like we don't know. It could be anything. I know mental illness is a big thing in the homeless community, and so not showing that and just showing who these people are as individuals, like so people that we can respect. Like I really appreciate that. Like that's serious stuff. Like I really appreciate that you went the extra mile to just show these people as people and not, well, they're homeless. It's like, okay, but there's more to that than just being a homeless individual. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also agree. I think it's so easy nowadays when we're doing a study or filming people or doing something to turn things into a gimmick or make some like exploiting. They say they've been exploited, which is so terrible to hear. And I guess I wonder, like, when you're doing this, when you're telling this story, what discoveries did you make that maybe you weren't expecting? Is there anything that came to you while filming that you weren't really foreseeing?
Well, I wasn't expecting them to like me as much as they did.
All right.
Because when I came in, everybody was very suspicious of me.
Okay.
Like even the staff members, they were like, "We'll try it out."
You had to earn their trust.
I did, and it was really cool because it did feel like one big family. I mean, some people there, like I said, are regulars and come all the time. Some people there might come once a month. You might not see them for weeks at a time. Like you don't know what could have happened. And actually some of the people that they hadn't seen for months were there the weeks that I had been there. They were like, oh my gosh, we didn't know like what happened to these people. And so one of the things that you don't expect is, you have people say 1 week, okay, I'll see you next week for filming, and then you don't see them next week because just their lives are just so, you never know what can happen. There can be so many unexpected challenges. And so I think I grew a lot in my empathy for their lifestyles, and I also just a lot of respect for the way that they carried themselves, because they don't carry this victim mentality that the world is against them and that, nothing good ever happens to them. Like they are really embracing like all the good that they can in the lives that they have. And even just in the conversations that I had that aren't in here with people, they just have such a positive outlook on life. And I think that the songs that they sing really bring that attitude to life. Like they're very strategic with the songs that they pick for the choir to sing. And I wasn't expecting to be so emotionally impacted by that. And it was an encouragement to me to be like, if they can do it, I can do it type of thing.
For sure.
And just people from so many different backgrounds, so many places. And I just didn't expect to meet that many different people in that short of a time.
Gotcha. That's beautiful. That's like I said again, it's a very passionate and very thought out project. I think you did a fantastic job with it. And I appreciate you taking the time and having these people look like people and not just another victim of their circumstances. Great job to you, Sage.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for you, Miss Sage Thomas. And now we're going to move on to our next documentary. It's Mr. Fang in the Dark Tones by Kyla Parr and Aaron Murdoch.
You're trying to explain the band to people, that it's like, think of like Elvis and the Misfits and Dracula all had like this weird like love child and it started a band. And whenever I finally started getting shows, like the first few shows that we played, we were playing with heavy metal bands, hardcore bands, screamo bands that are definitely not in our umbrella of subgenres that we normally would be associated with. I didn't think that those people would care at all. I really thought that we were just going to be kind of this background noise where everybody would walk out in front of the venue to smoke a cigarette and just completely ignore us. It's just like, all right, there's this goofy band. But they all stuck around, and all these metalheads really into it. And I think that's a really good sign whenever you can have people that aren't stereotypically into what you're doing start to appreciate it. Then you know that you're really striking a chord with people, because at that point, you just have good music. A lot of the other bands that we've had, just an absolute fantastic pleasure playing with. Wednesday 13, Doyle from the Misfits, which was pretty surreal to play with someone who had such a direct influence on the band. We actually also played with Michael Graves, who was the lead singer of the Misfits during the 1990s.
Got a shack!
We gotta let him in.
Alright.
Is that?
Mr. Fang is a almost cartoon exaggeration of myself and all these things I love. The message of the band is not a very strong or political or social one in the sense of a serious message, but definitely.
Oh, wow. My goodness. I was not expecting that. It was like a mix of Dracula and Frankenstein and all the books I read as a kid. How did you feel about that, Daniel?
No, it definitely felt like a passion project. Like, you could tell the person who made this really cared about the work and really wanted to put it on display.
Sure.
So that was really cool to see.
I think so. Let's bring them out here. We have Kyla Parr and Aaron Murdoch.
Great to have you on the show, guys.
Thank you.
Happy to have you, brother. Happy to have you.
To be here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Have a seat there. All right. Now, please, Kyla, explain to me. Because he had as I say, he had a mix of like Dracula, and I just saw Rainfield myself. That was wild. Yeah, I know. I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
That was wild. Can you explain to me what?
So kind of like as he said, kind of like, you know, the Misfits, Frankenstein, you know, of course Dracula and all them just kind of like had like a love child, and that's the band, you know.
That's the band. All right.
Of course, he was saying, you know, a lot of inspiration from, you know, stuff like the Stray Cats, Elvis, and other sort of like rockabilly stuff.
I love the way you shot this. I can't see all the colors, but but I did like the way that you lit it in all the different colors. It represented the band and how colorful they are, and I'm pretty sure it's part of their personality as a band. Could you tell us like their background, like where do they come from? Because I don't think anyone's ever seen them before.
Gotcha. So they're actually from like the Hampton Roads area. Of course, we got a part where Jacob was saying he's like actually from Florida.
Wow.
And stuff, and of course, military family, I think it was, and stuff, and you know, traveling around and just wound up settling here.
Gotcha. Okay. How did you find them? Like.
So I think it was like sophomore year. I was talking to one of my friends that worked at Hot Topic. He's like, "Hey, I'm in a band." He's like, "We got a show coming up." I was like, "All right, cool." So I went out to see them. Of course, they were just one of the opening acts, and Mr. Fang and the Darktones was actually like the main acts.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, I loved what I saw of the documentary. It looked so fun. It looked so interesting, and it's telling the story about these creatives who are very passionate about what they do. And it seems like, you know, you're telling the story, and this is a band of guys who just like dress up and play music, but it seems like it's more than that. You know, like what kind of a story you're trying to tell with them?
Oh gosh. So I think it was just, you know, just trying to get their story out. You know, I was gonna say like not too much of a like overall, you know, like groundbreaking thing. It was just, you know, a typical band doc.
Right. I mean, he even said it's like, it's not that they have some like deep personal cause. It seems like they're just playing music, right, as an expression for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the part that we were at right before it cut out. But it was basically, they were like, and they all had different reasons. I think Nathan had like the deepest out of all of them. It's like he kind of uses it as a way to get through some really tough stuff.
Yeah.
But the other two are more of just like a creative outlet and a passion for like old school like monster cinema. And every song that they put out is kind of, it's almost as if the title is one of those like 30s, 40s, 50s monster movies.
Yeah.
So like the Green Woman from Outer Space is like one of their top ones.
Okay.
Like, you know,
that's cool.
So stuff like that.
So, what were some of the behind the scenes? Because I know y'all got some behind. I know you got some behind the scenes of what was going on with this band. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Let's see. So some of the behind the scenes stuff. So of course, a lot of the concert shots we got. We're just there like with them as they're getting ready. Like putting on makeup, getting ready for that. Of course.
Go, keep going. Just keep going.
Of course, yeah. So the behind the scenes, them putting makeup on, getting ready for that. Let's see. Of course, at his house, recording. Like getting like a lot of B-roll of him playing his instruments. Of course, upright bass and stuff like that. And then like trying to like hold for sound for all the kids that were upstairs.
Did you meet any of them personally? Like get their backstories and how they joined together as a band, where they came from, a little bit of where they started off from.
Somewhat, yeah. Of course, like I was saying, Jacob, like military family, traveling around. We talked about that. We talked to them like when we were doing the interview, like how they came together and stuff, and their previous like backgrounds with music. Of course, yeah, the drummer. We were talking to him.
Yeah, he looked a little mysterious.
Of course, in the doc, he's saying, just stress relief and all this stuff. Of course, then once we got him off camera, stuff, he, like, of course, opened up more. I think it was just camera shy.
Gotcha, okay.
Stuff, he opened up a lot more about that.
Were there any trials and tribulations about shooting a band, especially with sound and trying to capture their type of music?
So the sound, the big thing, when we were, like, recording them rehearsing, we had, like, the boom mic that we set up at a distance, and then, of course, that was not the best. So we also just set the lavs up near the door.
Oh, wow, okay.
It surprisingly was very clean audio.
Yeah, for the lavs.
We used, like in the cut, we used a mix of the lav and the boom.
And the boom,
audio,
okay.
Because they both didn't sound quite right isolated.
Okay.
When we put them together, we were like, oh, well, this actually sounds pretty clean.
Really clean.
Yeah. Of course, it's not necessarily like sound like stuff with like filming that, but the concert, we went to film that. I think the audio came out clean. But the big.
I mean, well, it's a concert, and concert audio is insane, and it was
for sure
taking the mic most of the time.
As clean as it could.
Yeah, for sure.
However, I wish I heard it through the camera instead of sitting right beside like the drum and the amp with no earplugs.
Oh boy. So there's some hearing loss involved.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah, I'd love to know, going into making the doc, like, if there was anything that you kind of learned unexpectedly, or what surprised you about the process of making this doc, because you have your expectations and then you actually filming it.
Oh gosh.
Well, can I start?
Yeah.
I think the biggest moment for me, because like I edited 3 of our docs for this class.
Oh wow.
So this was the first one that I put together, and I remember like editing wise, I had put together about like 3 or 4 minutes of like material, and I hadn't really actually watched it back as one big thing. And just watching back the first few minutes, I was like, oh, I made a real doc. What? That's a thing I can do. I should do more of this.
There you go. So you're getting some confidence in your abilities.
So I was just realizing, like, oh, I apparently have this as part of my skill set. Like, because I didn't even think, like, when we went into doc class, like, I went in fully expecting to not do docs, and now I'm like, oh, I kind of actually think this might be the area I might want to focus on.
That's
in
so
film going forward.
A new interest.
Wow, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, definitely like a trial thing we learned, and just with that pre-production. I'm not a producer. Of course, I told Sinclair that I was going to be doing a doc on a band, and he's like, okay. He's like, yeah, just make sure you actually get them locked in, because I texted the lead singer, and I was like, hey, we'd love to do a doc on you, and he's like, cool, great, and he's like, I'm down, and it was just weeks went by, just no response. Yeah, it was just like liked message,
heart attack,
scene.
Heart attack, instantly, heart attack.
So yeah, it's like didn't really come through till after spring break.
Oh wow. No.
So you had to make it work on their schedule, on the band life, the life of rock and roll.
So what type of message are you trying to tell? Like, what do you want your viewers to take from your doc when watching it?
Oh gosh, just to get into your local scene. Look around, see what small bands are out there. Because you never really know till you look, and you're going to miss something like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest issues about us as a society. Like we say, hey man, we want support this, support that, but we never support the people in our local businesses, in our local community. And those are the ones that are really struggling. Like we'll take the time to support the big wigs, the big stars. And that's cool. I mean, we love their music. We can get down with their music. But what about the ones that are making the same type of music or close to or have a voice as well in your community? Those are the ones we also should be supporting. So the fact that you two went out, found them, and put them in the spotlight, who knows? If you take this documentary to festivals or whatnot, now they can shine. Now they have a spotlight. Now they might blow up. They might have some more album sales. So, it's very appreciative that the both of you took the time to actually do that. You know what I mean? What was the style that you were going for as far as the lighting and camera shots? Like, what were you, and as far as editing as well, like, what style were you going for? Like, story you were trying to tell within that?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say lighting.
I remember when we first set out as ideas, when me and Kyler were bouncing back, how we were going to do the lighting, because like we both have a reputation of having very colorful, very weird lighting and stuff that we do.
Okay,
so, like,
that's fair. That's fair.
I was like, I want to do really colorful, creative stuff for the interviews. And Sinclair just said, yeah, if you want to do that, you have to make the whole doc weird. So we just took that as a challenge. And we were like, yeah, we are going to make the whole
that weird. Okay.
Good to commit to something.
So with the lighting, of course, I'm the pretentious, film school, like, oh yeah, Argento, like, gotta go like Giallo horror, like big color stuff. So I was like, all right, crazy lighting. So of course, yeah, like working on masks and stuff like that, bring in lighting. So I went ahead and got the color gels and stuff. Of course, I went to the set for the first time. I was like, what colors do you use most of the time? And he's like, oh, greens, reds, blue. I was like, looking at the gel set, I'm like, we have blue.
Yeah, we wanted both to be green because like that's kind of their main color. I would just like yeah.
Of course, then the second time we went to film, definitely made sure to get the green lighting. So of course I don't know 3-point lighting. I just do whatever. I just walk on set. I'm like, I want to light there. I want to light there. We're putting the camera there.
They also already had
stuff. So
They also already had a little green light right for the drum set, just
the normal vibe. So it was pretty close to like Nathan's camera was pretty close to how it just normally is.
Of course, then the camera work stuff. I want to point and just give a shout out to Jason for that. I remember watching.
My man.
We were watching his doc, just the rough draft of it in class, and everybody was going crazy about the one shot he got just on the cart going.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? I was like, I need to make something that's going to have people just as yo, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Jason actually has just been the biggest inspiration for camera stuff.
Well, let's shout out Jason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, same, because that concert B-roll was so basically all the shots from the left were me, and then all the shots from the right were
Kyler.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and honestly, I'm really, really proud of what we did for that, because it was like that. It was also that realization of 20 minutes after the concert when I was like, wait a minute, Kyler, this is good for our DP.
We can make some extra use of this.
Gotcha. Well, gentlemen, that's all we have time for today, but I want to again congratulate you for all the hard work and dedication and the passion in your doc. I want to thank you again for coming. And for our next documentary, it is How Deep Will You Go by Brandon Richley.
In college, it can be hard to open up and share personal information with others. However, How Deep Will You Go is a card game that provides a safe and judgment-free zone for students to talk freely and be their true selves. By fostering deeper and more meaningful conversations, it helps to build trust and empathy among players. Through How Deep Will You Go, college students are finding a way to break down barriers and build strong connections with one another.
So Sarah, what do we have here? What is this game?
We have the game How Deep Will You Go? It's 3-tier questions to help you get to know the people that you're playing with. And we have the first level is called Icebreakers.
Okay. Is this your first time playing?
It is.
It is? Okay,
Is
cool.
it your first time playing?
It is, it is. So we're experiencing it together
yeah,
here.
yeah.
That's fun.
Okay, first question is...
Just making sure you're showing the right side.
What insecurities have you grown out of? To be totally honest, I've kind of grown out of this voice. But any insecurities I've grown out of? If we're being honest, I'm one big insecurity.
Like I said before, like I don't think I've actually grown out of any insecurities.
Actually, you know what? I've grown out of insecure of like just pitching my art to people, because if you don't tell anybody about like what you're doing, then what's like the point of making it anyway?
Yeah, growing out insecurities, like just as we've gone through with like the film department stuff, I have gotten a little bit more comfortable just, pitching my ideas. Like I actually can do.
Like it's personal. Like
The heart of the doc is like a personal dialogue between people, like human connection and understanding based off of like a common prompt, which is a really interesting concept for a doc.
I like that. Let's bring out the director and see what he has to say about this documentary. Let's bring out Brandon Richley.
Yeah, Brandon.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How you
See
doing?
you guys.
young blood?
Doing well. Thank you.
Have a seat, brother. Have a seat. All right, Brandon. Can you tell us exactly what your doc entails?
So my doc is all based on a game called How Deep Will You Go?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see on the screen here, like he's holding up a card. All those cards have prompts on them.
Okay.
Like you were just saying, yes, it's exactly. It's connection based.
Connection based.
It's all intentional. And I wanted to pretty much push the idea of intentional communication, intentional living, stuff like that, to make sure that you make connections. One of the hardest things that I've always grown up with is like being intentional with people. Because for me, it was always hard to get to make friends, to meet people. And like when I first started working, I was like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to make friends with you guys. I'm here to make money, kind of thing. So
yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, the intentionality of things is what I really wanted to hit on this.
Okay, so where did you find this game? How'd you get this idea?
It was TikTok, actually.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I can spend a good amount on TikTok. A lot of my stuff that I've like all created, it's ideas off of TikToks, whether it be a film, this documentary, you name it. Like, I get a lot of the stuff on TikTok.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
So, how did you get your people to participate in this game? I'm pretty sure some people have, they're closed off. They don't really want to talk about themselves, and this game is all about yourself. So, how did you get people to participate?
So, it was a kind of a little bit of just a spur of the moment thing.
Okay.
We shot it in this class, so you can kind of realize it's got like a 4-camera setup like we use here. And our professor was like, "Hey, does anybody have an idea of what we want to shoot?"
Okay.
So I was like, I immediately pulled the game out of my backpack, because originally the plan was to go over to like the cafe over in Cafe Mocha.
Oh, okay.
And just like pull somebody and be like, "Hey, you want to play a game real quick?" So I had the game ready. It was ready to go. So I was just like, "Hey, let's shoot the game." So it was all spur of the moment. And it was very interesting too, because like I didn't realize that like people that I know were going to be real and and actually say these things too. So it was very interesting.
Sounds like you had to catch him a little bit off guard to get him in the seat.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That's so cool. Was there, like you're going into this and you have a set vision for how the doc is going to go? Or did you have was it more like improvised? Like did you have to make a lot of changes along the way? Like how was that process for you?
So a lot of this doc was going to be very improvised, because like as a doc, you don't really know what they're going to say. And especially with these prompts, like one of the prompts was like, like what is something that you're willing to let go of, or are you willing to be vulnerable? And like with it being going from icebreaker to I forgot the second one, but like the third one, like, oh my word, those cards get so deep. And it talks about like relationships and like even self-harm or family matters, and like you don't know what people are going to say, especially like in these days. People go through things and you won't know. You'll never know.
For sure.
Because people, they don't want to like put a burden of that stuff on each other. So like in the doc, Sarah, she talks about talking with Jason, that they've known each other for 4 years. And they've not really talked to each other this whole time. And I was like, that's what I wanted in this doc. I wanted them to be like, wow, like this is very, very, very like raw. Like they're being honest with each other. They're not afraid to be open and unjudgmental.
Gotcha.
Yeah, to have that forum for deep connection, basically.
Yeah.
Between anybody. Anybody can have a connection.
Right.
Anybody on this planet, which is really cool. And it seemed like you also highlighted an important part about documentary making, which is like flexibility. You don't know where it's going to go, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish that I would be able to play this game with multiple people for like several hours. Another thing that is mentioned is that you don't really play the game for very long. We maybe shot 10-minute clips, and yes, you don't really make a deep connection, especially if you like answer one card from each of those categories. But I bet if you like answer 2 or 3 or 4 from each of those categories, you really start to get to know the person. Like when I found on TikTok, I scrolled through the whole entire page because I was just entranced of like how they got those people to just be intentional and to really open up. I was just like, wow, like this is great. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make a point? Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to get your viewers to understand, that we're all vulnerable, but we just don't have the will to express it? You know, we're all taught, hey man, keep it in, deal with it, let it roll off your shoulders. And for some people, yeah, they can do that. But for others, they break down. And then that's when the issues come in. That's when mental illness comes in.
Right.
Because we're not dealing with our problems, we're just letting it roll off our shoulders. So is that something you want your viewers to understand?
Yeah. I definitely want my viewers to understand that like they are able to open up. So not necessarily like to open up with like a stranger right away, because like you don't know who that person is. The people who played this game, we knew each other and we've known each other for several years. But like say if I go to like Starbucks and I try to say, hey, like, do you mind playing with this other person that's over here? Like, would you do this? I don't think they would get nearly as open.
Yeah, for sure.
But what my point I wanted to make is you are allowed to open up and you are allowed to be honest and create a space that is intentional and unjudgmental.
Unjudgmental.
Yeah.
Okay. That's understandable for sure.
And like production-wise, how you chose to tell the story, was that how, you know, like you were thinking about doing it all along, or were there other ideas you were bouncing back and forth, like in studio, out of studio?
Right, yeah. So originally, I took this whole entire doc, I was taking it with a grain of salt. What I got was what I got. I was having a really hard time with getting the urge to go talk to those people, because like, I know my point is to be like, to go talk to people. But I'm a person too. Like, I don't want to approach some person on the street and be like, hey, let's play a game. I swear I'm not going to hurt you.
A little psychotic. A little psychotic.
Yeah. You really have to be careful in these days too, because you don't know what they're thinking. Granted, like I have like a really great personality when I open up. Like I'm really good at like really faking it. I worked as a camp counselor for several years. You know, I could put on that face and I'm like, hey, you, let's go do something. Let's go ride the zip line. I see you're not having a good time. Like, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can do that thing, but it's easier to do it when I'm getting paid.
There you go. There's some incentive.
Yeah.
money.
Well, it seems like creating the doc was like a lesson on intentional communication in and of itself. Like that's what you're saying, but you have to like put yourself out there to do that.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So you're learning with the people that you're getting to participate in the doc themselves. You're opening up because you have to walk to them and go, "Hey, will you play this game?" Without acting like a person.
Yeah.
And then they have to open up and actually play the game.
Exactly.
Did anyone give you too much raw? Like it was too real?
Too real. Well, I did have these two people. I decided to like just say, hey, like, do you mind? Like, I want to really kind of get the feel of how this game is going to go. Shout out to you. I got to play the game with you. Man,
all day.
Oh man, I was watching the footage on that, and when I was playing the game with you the first time, also with Aaron Murdoch, you guys, like just like Sarah, I've known you guys for 4 years. I learned stuff about them that I never would have guessed. This guy, he's a big teddy bear. You can really.
Don't let him fool you, bro.
Don't let him fool you. The things that he said and like those ideas of, I'm like, Kenny. Yeah, this guy he's a great guy, but like I never would have thought some of those things that you got deep. You let those emotions like really just be intentional, and you communicated, and just wow, the game really brought those things out.
You just don't tell them. We won't keep that as a
I won't say that kind of stuff.
Keep that on the low. I don't want everybody to know.
These are our serious hosts are very professional.
Yeah.
Just keep that on. Yeah. So, what do you have planned for the future? Like, what do you got going on?
So this project really helped me open my eyes for the future. I've been trying to plan this idea of more than a screen name. You know how you can think, for example, internet trolls. They will post anything on Facebook and social media and all that stuff, but you meet that person behind the screen, totally different person.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
The original thought was that I was going to be doing it for the church that I work at, New Life, where I was going to work with some of the people who worked on the online campus. Hence more than a screen name. We're online. I work online. So I was gonna go meet those people who worked, like the volunteers, like more in that area. I was gonna meet with them and get to know who they were, what they did, and how the church online campus affected them.
That is amazing, Brandon.
Yeah.
And like I said, well, we ran out of time, but I want to thank you for coming through, and I want to, say congratulations on your documentary. I hope you play the game with more people and get more people to open up. Appreciate it, my man.
Thank you.
No problem. And for our next documentary, it is called Content Cortex by Aaron Murdoch. Stay tuned.
Gen Z has never known a world without phones. TikTok and Instagram and things are, in a sense, raising our kids.
How crazy that the generation that's never alone, that's always connected, is also the loneliest generation ever.
More than anything else, it perpetuates conformity. And they can attach their lives now to a vision of, I want that.
I downloaded TikTok before the pandemic hit. And so I'd watch a few videos here and there. It was fine. I enjoyed it. And it wasn't anything too crazy. I think I would scroll sometimes to avoid feelings and that sort of thing, but I was not addicted and I didn't spend hours and hours and hours every day on it. And then pandemic hit and that changed. There were times that my screen time just on TikTok was 6 hours. And I remember sitting there and being like, that's embarrassing. And so I decided right then and there that I was gonna delete TikTok because I would be embarrassed to show the students that I worked with that I spent 6 hours on TikTok. I was like, I don't want them to know, and I don't want them to do that. And so I deleted it. I ended up getting this job where I had to post TikToks. And so I had to re-download TikTok, which I was so frustrated about because I was like, I just stopped using TikTok, and so re-downloaded it, used it for work, and I was like, I'm only gonna use it for work. And we talked about how there were people that would go on to post on TikTok and literally cover up their screen just so they would go and post, and that was it. And I was like, man, that's what I'm gonna have to do. And that's not what happened. And I put on time limits for it, and I always just kept hitting ignore the time limits, and I got sucked right back in where I would spend multiple hours on TikTok every day. And I kept telling myself, oh, I just have it because I need it for my job. I just have it because I need to keep up with trends. I just have it so I can stay in the know in the student world because that's my job, working with Next Gen. I just gave all of these excuses. And as soon as I got my new job, I didn't have to have TikTok anymore. And I had some mentors and friends in my life that they were like, Taylor, how awesome you get to delete TikTok now, because that's what I kept.
My goodness, these docs are getting more and more serious, man. This content is serious. How do you feel about that, Daniel?
I think it was definitely a personable doc and like a very relatable doc with everyone. Everyone has access to social media. Everyone's probably experienced some form of regret related to social media and like spending too much time on it. So it's a really interesting and a really current doc. So I'm excited to talk with the creator.
All right, well, let's bring him out. This is Aaron Murdoch.
Welcome back, Aaron. Good to see you.
It's good to see you again, my brother. Thank you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you, sir. Have a seat. All right, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about your doc? It looks very dangerous.
I mean, it is. Social media definitely is one of the most dangerous things, I think, that has been conceived by man.
Like, that's a fact.
And my idea with it was when thinking of like what to do as a subject on documentary. One of the things that's like fascinated me the most about like just technology and the way that social media works and everything is just the fact that like our brains have just been like changed. I feel like as a society, just from consuming so much short form content. And what happens is like your attention span just dips more and more and more.
That's facts.
And like it's also like a common trend now to like put like gameplay in the background of like TikToks and Reels and Instagram and like and Shorts and everything. And like how destroyed are our brains collectively that we have to put gameplay behind things to keep people invested? Like it's scary. Like so I wanted to make a doc that was just about like the dangers of social media, and my cousin always talks about like her story as far as that goes, because she was very, very addicted at one point, and has since broken that. So yeah, I was like, I think she'd be a great person to talk to. And then later in the doc we get who, well, just recently they broke up, unfortunately. So it's now her ex-boyfriend, but you know, it's him, and there was a pastor that we got involved that was like, and his stance was like, I don't want any social media for my church at all, because he just is like that opposed to it. He's like, I've seen what it can do to some people as far as addiction goes, so like I don't even want to. So I thought he would also be a great person for the doc, and then cross-cutting between all of these similarities between what they had to say was like pretty much how I just constructed the narrative of it.
Gotcha.
So it's initially you get Taylor's story, and I didn't quite fully wrap it up yet because I wanted to keep that as a hanging thread that like at the very end you learn the conclusion to the story. So yeah, that's how it all came together.
Yeah, so I know for me as a millennial, we were born or were growing up right before the age of tech. Like we didn't have social media. I think the YouTube, you could only play a song. You couldn't even replay it. You could only play it, and that's you had to move on to the next. So I know when social media started to really expand and blow up, people like me, who I guess, I'm still trying to figure out my Instagram. But I think even from my older generation, even the older generations are becoming even more addicted to it. And I mean, I don't know, maybe it's something that they never had and they want to explore. And I know that social media has become the new resume for most people, especially people in our field. You know, when they say, hey man, we see your resume, they want to DM you. They want to see your Instagram, what type of shots you got, what have you done. So that's become the new resume. So how does your doc correlate with the young and the old? Like what can both take from it?
I mainly wanted to talk about Gen Z, unfortunately. So like,
I got you.
A big theme later on in the latter half is about how it's affecting Gen Z, and because the idea is that we came to a realization that Gen Z has never known a world without phones. And because Taylor says I think around like 5 or 6 minutes, that she realized that she had never like felt a point in her life where she didn't have some kind of technology in her hand. And for us, like, because we're about the same age, she kind of brought up the example, I don't remember whether I kept it in or not, but she mentioned specifically it's like things like your DS or your iPod. And while those aren't like, you know, Instagram, TikTok, and social media, it's still a form of technology.
For sure.
So in our generation, we've always had some kind of technology. I mean, you can technically make the argument of like everyone's like had their radio in their car or something for a while, you know, so, but it's like, but it's just we've gotten more and more and more connected as a society. And now, especially the younger half of Gen Z, they've just straight up like had phones and access to the internet like the whole time. Like, and there's a point Harrison says, he's like, I got a phone when I was like 12 and my sister got one at half that age.
My God.
That's crazy to me that, you know, 6 is just, it's terrifying, but.
That's insane.
So as regards to like the point of the documentary and what you're trying to say, like personally it's crazy to me that, you know, we've come to a point where social media can be treated like a drug, like it can be treated as something you can get addicted to, and it becomes a real problem that starts to eat away at your life. So I wonder, with your documentary, is there any sort of allusion towards like steps in the right direction? Is it cutting it off? Is it finding a balance? Like, what would you have to say for?
Yeah, I think the biggest, like the best answer to your question would be like the very last line of the doc, which is where Harrison says, social media can be used as a tool, but don't let it use you. You know, so it's like, I didn't want to say with the doc that social media is inherently 100% a bad thing.
No, it's not 100%.
Because, yeah, it's like, you know, it's like things, like I think, well, I mean, there's certain things like heroin or something that obviously are bad in any substance, but like, you know, I think, I think like most, like there's a lot of things that like are good things, but in moderation. So like, but if we cross into actual drugs, a lot of that is pretty much just bad, period. But like, you know, social media can be used as that sort of drug, I think, for a lot of people. And I think like, you know, it's just one of those things that I think is good in moderation, but like not as an addiction, you know, so it's.
Why do you think social media is an addiction?
I think it's just because of like the fact that like, especially because I mainly want to talk about short form content here. And I think short form content is the big thing for a lot of people. TikTok as an algorithm is just advancing more and more and more and more.
Gotcha.
And it's getting to the point where like you can spend a few hours on it and the algorithm just knows you. And TikTok also like, it pretty much just infects your phone with like, it's almost like malware, to be honest. With it like just mines your phone for like any kind of data it wants on you and then helps build your base of content to be just for you. You know, so it's like you can scroll for many hours on it because you're just constantly entertained by things that are tailored to you, and the space of content is just very, it's just very like if I were to go on, it'd just be all Aaron content for like, you know,
hours and hours.
Yeah,
and
for hours and hours and hours.
Oh my goodness.
And going into the doc, like in terms of creating this like narrative around short form content, like did you know exactly what you were going to say, or did you have to make some discoveries along the way to figure it out by the end?
Yeah, well, I knew it was gonna be about short form content the whole time, and that's kind of like the direction I was trying to push everyone to go in. But we ended up also exploring the idea that like there's so much comparison going on with social media, like how you follow so many big people, and you begin to, your lives just subconsciously will start becoming more like theirs if you are really into that person's like content or really into them as a creator. So that was something that like I didn't intend to like touch on in the doc, but now is like a point that I'm like, that has to stay. Like,
right.
'cause that's definitely, because that's an aspect that like I didn't really experience too much. Like I don't really notice myself doing that, but I definitely have noticed other people doing it. And I was really glad he brought that point up because that was a really important thing that I think needed to be said for a lot of other people.
No, it's totally fair. It seems like people want to follow an ideal version of themselves or an ideal version of a person so that they can strive to be more like that. So that seems like very common.
Well, and again, I think in terms of like a role model, that's healthy. But like if you're doing it like you see someone, and I think one of the best quotes actually that captures this is when Taylor says like, social media is a highlight reel, and you shouldn't be comparing your worst and your mundane normal life to someone's best life. And I think that's where the toxic element of it is, because I think as a role model, like that's fair. But if you are thinking, oh, this person's life is all sunshine and flowers, why isn't mine all sunshine and flowers? When, behind that, they're also going through probably just as much stuff as you are, so, and to varying degrees, They might not be dealing with like your specific kind of intense situation, but they're still dealing with whatever demons they have that are affecting them differently. And it just, everyone's going through stuff is ultimately the point.
That's awesome. That's a great point.
Could you sum up your entire doc in one word and why?
I kind of like the title, because the title is actually a quote that like I feel the take of it didn't really work too well in the doc.
Okay.
So I didn't keep it. But I like that Taylor said, she was like, it's like a big content vortex where you're just getting sucked in more and more. Because I think vortex is a perfect, and that was why at the opening graphic of it was kind of the spiral into just content. And you can just get sucked like into this hole of just content forever. So I think really just the title, the content vortex, is a perfect way to wrap everything up. But I mean, there's also the theme of comparison that I think was pretty great, touched on later. So I would say like social media is like a vortex, and you can go down this rabbit hole of comparison, and that's really toxic. So,
Well, that's all the time we have for you today, Aaron. But I want to appreciate you for coming out and telling us about your doc and exploring social media and TikTok and stuff. I'm still trying to learn that stuff. I don't know if I'm going to TikTok or not. That's dangerous. But I want to thank you for all your hard work and dedication to your project, your documentary, and I hope you go far with it.
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. And next up, you got to get that. Got to get that, my brother. And next up is Animation Industry by Thomas Sino.
I didn't want to be the one to tell you this. There's going to be no more Final Space.
Shows like Final Space just gone, lost to the void, and no longer available to stream.
5 years of my life, 3 seasons of TV, blood, sweat, tears, became a tax write-off for the network who owns Final Space.
Again,
I put all of my heart into this show. And maybe that's why it hurts so much.
As over 30 shows from HBO Max, most of which animated, are set to leave the platform this week.
This is showbiz, man. This is how it works. Unfortunately, this is how it works.
I've told you guys multiple times.
Can you believe animators carried the TV and film industry during the pandemic because nothing else could be made? And as a thank you for that, all the executives just cancel every animated project?
Maybe I was a bit preemptive with my optimism for streaming services when it came to animation.
Please watch our cartoons before they're removed this week. I see nearly my entire cartoon career being removed here on these lists.
It just goes to show how these companies, the folks in charge, these out-of-touch executives, saw animation and said, you're the first to go.
Lavon Jihanian, art director for Tig and Seek, but also someone who enjoys animation and worked on Over the Garden Wall, Wander Over Yonder, and more, tweeted out, "It's gone. They're all gone. I can go on a pirate website to watch episodes, but my kids can't. I made this for them."
They definitely carry that stigma where they say, well, of course we're gonna keep working on the broader spectrum shows like Game of Thrones, because that's live action. That's what adults watch.
One tweet pointed out that one of the major monopolies is erasing the history of a lot of TV, largely educational plus children's programming, and regardless of whether they're bringing it back or not, should be a red flag to how media is treated by major companies. HBO Max Discovery Inc. did this so that they wouldn't have to pay residuals that would fund the union's pension and healthcare. These residuals directly pay into our union healthcare plans. It's how animation workers have healthcare. Aaron Burdett, who worked on Close Enough, tweeted,
Wow, this looks like someone's calling out big industry tech. Love that. Love that.
Right. No, they're for sure calling them out, and this seems like formatted in a little different way than we've been seeing from the doc. So
Mhm.
I'm actually really intrigued to talk to the creator about, his inspiration and what he was going for with this. It seemed really cool.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Let's bring them out. It's Thomas Sino and Aaron Murdoch.
I'm back.
You're back.
It's been quite a long time since you've seen each
Hi
other.
again,
eh?
Kenny.
Yeah, you're a popular guy, I'm telling you. Love that energy, yeah.
Busy.
All right. Now, Thomas, can you tell us a little about, your doc and what it represents?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. In this preview, there was supposed to be the bigger part of the doc was not really the intro. There was supposed to be like a big interview with Van Partible, who is the creator of Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, you can skip that part on the left.
If we can, if we have time. Do you mind if we do that?
No, we don't have to play it. You just you just go to the scene where
It's your world. I'm just a squirrel trying to get through it. That's it. Do what you got to do.
Uh-oh.
Did he skip it?
It's not playing.
Oh, no.
There we go.
Oh, no.
There we go. All right.
Is it playing now?
It's playing now, yeah.
Bless your heart. That's
All
what I'm
right.
talking about.
So Van, the boy, the man of the hour, he basically talks about why this kind of debacle in the animation industry, why it's happening, and what it really means for these people in the animation industry. Because, at the big thing of the doc is, this is showbiz, but like these decisions that these executives are making have effect, this collateral effect that people, and especially the executives, they don't really notice. And I think that's just really a potent thing for me as someone who's trying to go into the animation industry as a writer, director, voice actor. I want to be a lot of things except an animator, because I put all my creativity up here, not here. Yeah.
Well, I can't agree. I do know, just from a film perspective, the executives start making decisions that kill the creativity. They always do that. And from what I've noticed, the higher you go, the less creative they tend to be. So you have everyone else saying, hey, we should do this, it should be colorful and that. No, that ain't gonna make money. It's like, but it is though. I'm the creative. You just the money man in the back wearing the Armani suits and stuff like that, making those decisions.
Yeah, like the wizard.
Exactly. So how did you come by this piece? Like, what made you want to even do it in the first place?
So I first learned about the thing that really made me want to do this was the cancellation of Final Space. And now hold on. So Final Space was not just canceled.
Okay.
It was written as it was like deleted from the HBO Max app as a tax write-off. Now, what does that mean? That means that no physical copies of season 1 and 2 are left, and there were no physical copies of season 3 ever made. So unless someone pirated it somewhere, there is no way that you can watch that show anymore. So 5 years essentially wiped clean.
My goodness.
Because, some executives had to, do their have some tax write-offs.
That's nasty. That's disgusting.
So basically season 3 of the show is not able to legally be streamed anywhere. You can purchase 1 and 2, but 3 was just a tax write-off. So they just shafted it hard, and it was like, okay, Kenny.
And it's like,
okay, Kenny.
It's like, again, these are people's passions. There's so much that goes into animation. There's so much that you can do with anime, and it's why I personally gravitate towards animation is the love and care that goes into it. Even in my opinion, for me, more so than live action stuff. But
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that the industry is really it's run through money. It's a money-based industry. So I'm curious as to when you're approaching the doc, how you were able to get these connections in these interviews, because it seems like you have some pretty prominent figures of animation in the industry, like with the the creator of Johnny Bravo. Like, what was that like, reaching out to people?
So to answer your question directly, that was insane. I did not think in a million years I would get the guy who did Johnny Bravo. But I got into contact with him with a professor at the school named Jeff Holder. He's an adjunct professor. He lives in LA. Wow. And he's been in the animation industry since the 80s. So he's overseen the development of Cartoon Network stuff like Johnny Bravo, of course, Powerpuff Girls, all these greats like Dexter's Lab. So he's got a ton of connections. I wanted to initially have his insight on it, as well as one other person, because let's be honest, a two-person Zoom interview would have been weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
If it was like face-to-face, it could have worked, but Zoom, it messes with the feng shui, you know what I mean?
Of course.
But he was like about to get a third person, but the third person was a no-show, so I just did the interview with Van. But yeah, I mean, like I'm really excited to actually have connections like this, going forward.
That's so cool.
So, Aaron, how was it working with Thomas, number one, and number two, going up against big wigs and big companies? That's dangerous in our time today. That's like an instant cancellation. So how was that?
It was, of course, awesome as always working with Thomas. I've worked with this dude like a billion times now, so we just go. Well, I mean, we try to, because our brains often don't let us focus, but so sometimes we'll have to spend like a whole day just like sitting and like writing something or editing something to get it to work. But yeah, this, editing that was definitely, it was very much like, I'd say like Mr. Fang, when I edited that was mostly just like, it was almost entirely just like me going through and constructing the narrative, and then going to Kyler and Thomas and being like, all right, guys, what do we think? What can we add? What can we take out? And it was that kind of relationship. For this one, it was very much just like I edited alongside just Thomas the whole time.
Okay.
So I would say for Mr. Fang, it was like very much just me. Obviously for my own, it was just 100% me. But then this one was very much like Thomas kind of is the editor in a way, because it was pretty much just him being like, it was like I put the interview in, made the transcription, and I'm like, all right, Thomas, here's the script. What do we want to like cut? How do we want to structure it? So it was pretty much, it was a lot more Thomas than me for this one.
Well, see, the thing about it is, like, I saw a lot of like I had some like the Looney Tunes, a lot of like the big collections as a kid. So those kind of cartoons, and I got to see like behind the scenes of that, and they had like little like documentaries on, just the whole process, and I tried to structure it like that.
Yes,
because
for sure.
I'm kind of nostalgic about that.
I can understand that.
Were there any like unexpected revelations while making the doc, or as you were doing more research or more filming? Like, was there anything that you weren't seeing before that you saw that changed things for you, or how is that like adapting to different information or circumstances?
Really, the thing for me is just learning to kind of just take. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, just take the executive order, lack of a better word, because I mean, it's just, I mean, it's the reality of the industry.
Yeah.
But really, it's like appreciating the art while you're doing it, rather than focusing on, these bigwig executives took this from me. But it's really not about like the product for me anymore. It's about the service.
Yeah. And like respecting the creators is what it sounds like too. That's so interesting.
Now, are you going to continue this fight? Is this something that you're passionate about enough to, go into that industry and start fighting and punching your fist forward?
Are we going to talk about Viral Star and talk about Psycho Pirates?
That sounds dangerous.
So my plan as of now,
is
to kind of just like go into more freelance writing.
Okay.
I have a couple of projects that I'm going to be working on maybe over the summer, maybe, I'm not sure, but I got a really good artist who's working on, he's going to be like the lead artist for one of my particular babies. That's if you didn't,
Can't say babies
not
like
babies.
that.
If you didn't know, people, that's what we call our projects.
The babies.
I
can roll. I'll roll with it. I'll roll with
It's
it.
just the way you phrase that sentence just sounds.
You're giving your life to something. You're pouring into something. It's your
Exactly.
child.
Exactly.
Yes.
I could roll with that. No, I could roll with that. So I understand that. And lastly, Thomas and Aaron, knowing you're passionate about this type of stuff in industries and figuring out and maneuvering through a wild and kind of cutthroat world, how are you going to react to that type of business, and what are your plans going into that type of business?
Just to be prepared for anything, because again, you know, it's a branch of the entertainment industry, but it's the entertainment industry. Facts. The entertainment industry is a friggin' jungle, man. And
it's wild out there.
Yeah, it's really wild. Like anything can happen at any moment, and like the jungle, it's beautiful and almost like paradise-esque, but at the same time, it's very, very, very one of the most dangerous places on the earth.
Gotcha. What about you, Aaron?
Well, first two steps, want to try and sell Mr. Fang Doc and Content Vortex, because I think both of those have a pretty good shot. And then from there, because we were talking to Sinclair last night, and he was talking about like how our I think, is a great shot would be like selling those docs to start off with. And I also think that it was really one of the best things, like he said throughout doc class, that stuck out to me was like that, well, I don't know, he's probably said that in every class, but like just the, how at first, you're going to be like exploited, and you're going to be used, and people are going to, you know, like just underpay you and everything. And at first, you know, you kind of have to, but like that's all temporary, and you'll eventually get to a point where you can really start being like competitive and being like, no, I want to be paid this much, but we gotta work our way there first. So, you know, I'm prepared to go through as long as that takes of years of being like, okay, I'll accept the lower paying thing until I finally have like a lot more under my belt, and then going from there. But ultimately, I just think as long as I'm taking raw footage and constructing it into a narrative, that is, I think, out of anything that we've done film-wise, that's the most fun that I have, is taking raw footage and making a story out of it.
Gotcha. So that's all the time we have for today. And I want to thank you both for coming out and sharing your experiences with your doc, and thank you again. Both.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And for our last doc, it is Uber Dads with Layla Haddad and John Klaves.
I thought I said older dads. Uber dads. Scene 1A, take one. Oh, that was so cool. I'm awesome.
So John,
There's really a couple main things that I do. Right now, I'm big time into disc golf. So basically golf with Frisbees. I don't know if you've ever played disc golf, but if you haven't, you should definitely go give it a try. You know, got into it a few years ago just because it was an inexpensive way to enjoy yourself, get outside and do some of those things. So I'm actually starting to play some amateur tournaments, and I can say right now, I don't know if the rest of my career will go this way, but I have won every tournament I have ever played. So granted, it's only one, but you know, it was nice. I have been driving for full-time. I have been driving for about 1 year and 3 months. Honestly, probably the favorite aspect of it is that I do get to meet a lot of people. I get to see a lot of different people. I get to talk to a lot of different people. You know, obviously some people get in the car and they just want to put in their earbuds and get from point A to point B. They don't talk back or pay any real attention to you. But others, they get in, they want to talk, then we can have good conversations, and it's just neat getting different perspectives. And I'd say one of the funnest ones that I had, when I first started, I used to do a lot of the bar closings and stuff. I figured I'd go drive on New Year's Eve. And honestly, the very first couple I picked up, I went out at 6 o'clock at night. So you're not thinking you're going to be having all the crazy drunks yet. You're thinking, oh no, I'm just going to be taking people to the parties now. Later at night, I'll be bringing them home. But the very first ride I got right at 6 o'clock was an older couple. They were probably in their mid-60s.
Thank y'all. That looked interesting. It's a little more heartwarming. Uber dads driving around. How'd you feel about that, Dad?
I loved the homely feel of it. You're just like driving around with a dad and he's telling a story. Like, that's great. Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love a good story, especially that has a punchline? So
definitely. And let's hear this story from our director, Layla Haddad, and John Klaves. I did.
He corrected himself incorrectly. A familiar face.
Layla.
How are you?
How you doing, John? Sad. I've been saying your name for 4 years, and then one time I messed it up. I want to thank
One
you.
time, the 2 times.
The 2 times. I know. Sad. It's sad. Just cancel me. I want to thank you both for coming out and tell us about your doc.
Yeah. Well, John was the original story. You can't say writer, but he had the inspiration. Right? He had the inspiration, and so maybe you can talk about how you got the inspiration.
So Uber Dads kind of originated from the idea of we saw some of our different friends or different parents around, and they had a full-time job. They worked 40 hours a week. They had a family. They were everything that you would have seen should have been completely, dependent on the job that they had, yet they Ubered. And we were kind of like, it's kind of odd. Like, why is somebody who's working a full-time job also doing Uber? And we started this conversation of diving into what economic impacts are hitting people, what changes in our society have we kind of seen that people need to also pick up Ubering on top of their job. When we dived into the documentary, we started finding out that some people, surprisingly, both of our talent who are shown in this documentary were finance majors in school. Wow. They were in the finance world. And they decided that Uber was a more fiscally responsible choice for their lifestyles.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was something that was like absolutely mind-blowing. It was something that we didn't start with. We were kind of like, we started at the idea of the economy sucks and people have to Uber to survive, to then finding out like Uber is a better full-time job than finance jobs.
Yeah, our Mr. Stepper, he was gonna work in the banking industry. He went on to do fine dining, but he found that for him and his family, doing Uber, he didn't have to take on credit card debt. So it was a really good financial decision for him to do that, just so he could keep up his financials for the family and they don't have to go into debt. That's amazing. As a student, not having debt, that sounds amazing.
Beautiful, yeah, that's the dream right there.
So it was really cool to just hear their stories and how they're able to take their money and their time into their own hands. And so when John pitched this idea to me, my mom actually did Uber for a little bit.
Uber Mom's part 2.
Uber Mom. She did it for pretty much the same reasons, for debt and stuff like that. So when he pitched that idea to me, I was like, that's a really cool thing, and I would love to kind of see it come to life. So it was great to work with him and make it happen.
Gotcha. What type of experiences that y'all have driving with these Uber dads and learning their backstories and their experiences?
Yeah, we got, we had 2 very, very interesting characters. They told us
so
a lot of stories.
I'm not drinking.
we asked them, do you have a favorite experience while Uber driving? Do you have a memorable time? It's actually showing right now. He talked about, when he used to, you can make a lot of money on Uber doing bar closings and stuff to keep the community safe in that way. And so he told us some stories about driving the drunks home and seeing how that goes. And it was just very fun to kind of hear a glimpse into their lives, just so different from ours.
Yeah, we also, not to cut you off, we did scrub through a lot of really fun dash cam footage that we were sent as well.
Yeah,
there's some very interesting, some that we weren't able to quite put in. There's some really interesting experiences that are recorded on dash.
And it was really cool because these dads, like, they were very passionate. Like, I didn't really think I would find people that were so passionate about Uber. I scrubbed through about 2-3 hours of footage of them talking about this app, and that's just a really cool thing. You can really see, like, the difference it's making in their lives actively. Yeah.
Let's talk like expectations versus reality. You know, you're planning this doc, you're going into it. Were there any, and this can be technical, this can be like narrative, were there any unforeseen things that came to you guys as you were making the doc and you maybe had to adapt to it or, you know, make some changes?
So again, we kind of started with the idea that it was more of an economic focus. But the more I heard from these dads, the more it kind of spun like, you kind of got to see like just how much they love their family. And so the doc, I think, ends up taking a little bit of a spin. These guys are like heroes. They're heroes for their family. They're spending, you know, the 40 hours at work plus 20, 25 hours part-time. David Abraham was a full-time Uber driver. So, you know, he talks about, he spends 9 hours in the car, his back is aching, like, these guys are heroes. And so it was really cool to kind of twist the doc and talk more about, like, what they're doing, how they, you know, they do this to see their families, go to lunch with them. Mr. Stepper talks about, you know, he got to coach his daughter's soccer team. He got to really be a part of her life. And he went on and on about her. He like their relationship is amazing, and so it's so cool that like in this economy, these dads can still have that relationship with their children and their families, and make money. And you know, they were just heroes, and it was really cool to spin the doc in that way.
Yeah, and I think kind of to add on to that too, you know, we have a segment right at the beginning where Mr. Abraham's talking about, you know, playing frisbee golf and spending time, like Lila was saying, with their family, and it starts to beg the question of like, people like these men who studied finance and they were worried about working from like 7 to 5 every day, suddenly being able to be a frisbee golf champion or being able to spend time with their daughter, not just after 5 o'clock. And that starts opening up the realm of like, does Uber provide a lifestyle that is more consistent with families, allowing the dads to be just as involved as the moms, and I think that's something that, really stood out after we started filming that we didn't know we would come upon.
Yeah, we were questioning ourselves, like, for the summer, we're like, do we start Uber?
Literally.
Like, this guy was saying he made more doing full-time Uber than he did being a manager at a chain restaurant. Right. Like, that's just wild, a wild concept.
And had more time. So.
And he has more time.
Maybe the finance majors know what's up.
Maybe.
They know where the money is.
So it was really inspiring to just hear their stories and, know that there are more flexible options out there. And, as much as we dog on technology, like, it's really cool what you can do nowadays.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about like some of the shots you guys got. Like you filmed in the car. There was some drone shots I saw, which were really cool. They were really good. And there was like that external car camera shot in the drive-through. I'd love to hear.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun with that. I was very scared for my camera. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you, Jason, for your car mount. But we stuck it on top of the car in the drive-through, and we just like drove through the drive-through. We were
the longest drive-through ever.
Yeah.
We sat in line at this McDonald's for like an hour.
It's busy.
In the clip, I don't know if you can pull up the clip. We pull into the McDonald's when it's still generally bright out, and by the time we're through the McDonald's, so you can see the literal brightness going down.
It goes down.
While we're in this drive-thru, which I don't know for fast food, but like that shot was super fun. We drove through the road a little bit with the car mounts on top too, and I was actually hanging outside of the window as we were filming because I was so concerned that the car mount was just gonna fall off. It didn't, thankfully. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think in terms of like the actual interviews and stuff, we really wanted to go for a very real. We didn't want it to look super structured. Our whole vision was like you are sitting in the passenger side with them, and you are taking an Uber drive with them, and you're hearing their story. That was kind of the inspiration for the shots. Sometimes it can be a little shaky, sometimes it's a little raw. But I think that was kind of the vision, like being in the back seat, having that shaky camera. You're looking at their eyes up in like the rearview mirror, all that kind of stuff. That was the inspiration for it. And I think we pulled it off pretty well. I think the shots look really cool, and I
definitely.
think they're unique. Like I haven't seen a lot of just that like really close up passenger side like angle before.
Yeah, especially in like a documentary.
Right.
Yeah.
I was so cramped in the car. I'm not gonna lie. When I was shooting it, like,
Big
I was
C300s,
pushed up
like-
and, like, I had the C300 pushed up in the corner like this, and we would drive for like 30 minutes. So I'm sitting like with like the chair fully pulled up. I'm sitting like this for like 30 minutes, and it was so painful. Like literally, like when we got out, like my arms were aching, like my back. I was like, oh, I felt like I've been in the car for
So
hours.
it was really a labor of love. Like
We also didn't like pick our lenses perfectly, so we had a pretty punched in lens, which is also kind of what's
But I think it helps. I think it makes it look like you're right up in his face. You're hearing
story. It's
everything.
intimate. Yeah,
exactly.
I did also love our shot with Beam, where we made our friend Michael walk into the back of the car as if he
Simulated
was
an Uber.
an Uber. Of course,
Of course,
Yeah, Mr.
Beam.
Stefan's like, hey, welcome. What's your name? He's like, Michael. He's oh, well, welcome. Where are we headed to? You know, and that was just kind of fun. It
Yeah,
puts
we
you
didn't
into
want
it.
to actually get in someone's Uber, be like, hey, so can we film you?
No, I was
Like,
actually
be a
thinking
little-
that. I was like, did they actually just film someone in the guy who's Ubering?
We were like, let's simulate it a little
the
bit.
reenactment.
Right.
I would say, as a father myself, it does break my heart that I can't spend as much time with my daughter and having those experiences. I've already missed a few things myself. So it's great to have people out there, fathers, that are trying to spend more time and doing what they have to do to support their families and make sure they have enough time for their kids. So is that what you're trying to get your viewers to understand, that there are dads out there that are trying their best to support and to be there, you know, the role models for their kids? You know, you want your kids to be like, my role model is my daddy. You know, it's really good to hear. Is that what you're trying to get your audience to understand?
Yeah, I think it's cool because I think the older audience can take away, like, they can appreciate, like you, like they can appreciate what these dads are doing. And I think the younger audience, as you said, can be inspired by these dads and maybe hopefully see their own father or their own mother in these characters. I think there's a little bit for each audience, and it's kind of cool in that way.
Gotcha.
And I think to add on to that, you know, there's a lot of messages, both that we intentionally set up and ones that just came up while filming, that I think the documentary tells. And I think one of the big ones we kind of wanted to highlight that we started with is like, you know, the economy also affects, you know, dads in this way, because these are their real jobs. This is what they wake up every day to do. Some do it part-time, some do it, you know, full-time. But we also wanted to highlight, like, I mean, what world did we ever imagine, like, suburban like dads driving Uber? You know, like that's it's a weird thought, because we've never, like, that's just kind of a new concept to us, and we kind of wanted to highlight, like, people's families are reliant on things like this, and that not necessarily that they were struggling financially, but they're dependent on things like Uber, which I think in our minds often is like, oh, it's a bunch of, you know, teenagers with a part-time
Right,
job.
I thought it was
kinda
all
just
college
driving
kids.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
work.
exactly, yeah.
It's like, no, this is their career. You know, they're passionate about it. They like to meet people. But also at the same time, like, we have a segment in the video where they're like, yeah, when gas prices hit $5 a gallon, a lot of people stopped driving because Uber didn't accommodate for it, you know? And kind of just, we wanted to shine light into, you know, like, things like this that people don't highlight as, oh, this is a career. You know, it is a career for some of these dads.
Yeah, and it makes a monumental difference for some of these dads.
Gotcha. So is it Uber for the, you know, a job for y'all? Like, I mean, we thinking about it? I mean,
you said you wanted to spend more time with your daughter, so.
I mean, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Maybe we found a job for you as well, you know?
I could use a couple dollars, you know?
But, like, that was one thing that we kind of learned from it, is like, even if you don't want to commit fully to something like this, a lot of people were utilizing it as, when you need an extra buck, you can drive. You know, I think Mr. Stepp in our video, he said he only accepted rides that were above a certain amount, because he was like, I'm not fully reliant on this. He worked as a server. So he was like, I'm not fully reliant on this, so I'm gonna make it worth my time. You know, so he does it when, you know, family wants to go on vacation, he knows, okay, and this is, I think, where his finance brain comes out a little bit. He's like, okay, I need to work an extra 10 hours of driving to be able to accommodate the vacation that we want to have. And I think that's a really cool perspective that he put into, of like, it's not being reliant on it, but he's utilizing it for that.
And I think being able to control your money like that, like a lot of us will sit at a minimum wage job for years and years, make the same amount of money, but being able to control your money like that, I think is such a cool privilege to have. And there's just so much you can do with that. That's just a really cool idea.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you both, Lila and John, for presenting us with an amazing documentary. I hope one day you might see me driving Uber.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, That is all we have for today for Are You Filmmaking? I hope you enjoyed this segment, and we'll see you back again. See you later.